Dick rolling, everybody. I'm just in the middle of I'm gonna tell you more of what's going on today. I'm gonna finish off this dabbing. Hope you guys got something dabbing on. Like, what are you guys dabbing today? It's Friday, and we got some amazing guests here. We got some great gardeners coming into play here. But right now, I had to get my dab on, and well, you know what? I think they're already joining in today. Here they are. What's going on, guys? It's great to have you here today. What's up? I'm dabbing. You guys are jumping in, and I was just saying we got some great gardeners coming into the show today. And well, I want to welcome Matt and Kurt, and it's great to see you guys. I'm following you guys all the time. I mean, I've been following you, Matt, for shit, dude, 20 years plus, man. You got no idea how long I've been following your story and what you've been doing in the industry, going all the way back to the Vic days and growing for Vic Compassionate Club. And I just want to let you guys introduce yourselves a little bit, and then I got some questions to ask, but I'm gonna get right down to what's going on here, and that's what I kind of want to talk about. It's what you guys have been growing, and what you guys been growing on, and what kind of got you into growing. And I'm just excited to talk more about what got you into the industry, Matt. And I'm gonna start off with you. And you guys got all the jars of weed. I got weed.
Weed got us into the industry.
Weed got you in the industry.
When did I get in the weed industry?
I
mean, probably like 94, 95, I think I sort of started growing weed. I was a full-time raver. And I literally was a professional raver. That's all I did in the 90s, living in Toronto. We had, Toronto mapped out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We could find a crowd of like 100 people at least dancing. And that's all we ever did. So weed for me was at nighttime, I'd get home all chewed out and I'd just go and spend hours down in the basement. Because back then, nobody knew. Even some of the people I partied with them for years, and didn't know I grew weed. I remember this one time I was down in the basement watering the plants. My friend Megan came over, and she just walked in your house because she's that good of a friend. And I'm like scrambling up the stairs trying to undo the hose, and she comes in the kitchen just as I sort of throw the hose down the door, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? What are you up to? And she's all like, what are you doing down there? And I'm like, what? Nothing. Sort of into the living room. Hey, let's smoke some weed, and she just wouldn't let it go. Right? Well, I don't understand. What's going on? Remember taking her down there, just like a little 4-lighter back in the day with big 6-foot parabolics on light movers. I just blew her mind back then. She was like, what? All the weed we smoke comes from you? I'm like, yep. So, and really because of sort of raving and all that and having so many psychedelic experiences, I ended up having a few psychedelic experiences that were different than all the other ones. They were just outright different. And in the search for what those different experiences were, took me down the road of mysticism and shamanism. And I ended up finding some lady, an old group of ladies, and started going to the drum circle and always setting an intention and going journeying. And my intention was always, how do I grow weed better? And, ultimately it became, what's your intention? Why are you growing weed? And at the time it was to sort of pay my rent and stuff. So it was like, oh, so, you need to make money. That's your intention. So you have to pay your bills. And it became the sort of journey into figuring out to grow weed with the intention to make somebody feel better, rather than the intention of making money. So then that journey took me out west, and then, rented a place on the island, met Philippe Lucas at the Vancouver Island Compassion Society, told him my intention of wanting to I grow it with the intention to make people feel better, and it just became a perfect fit with the Vicks, because then after that,
really
for years after that, then that's what I got to do. I was there at the Vicks for 15 years after that. We developed breeding programs based on the feedback from the members of the club, and we did all kinds of fun things back then. And then I got arrested, and then I met this guy.
Well,
everybody meets me on their bad days.
The bad day. I was gonna actually kind of get to that part of the court challenge, because I was in court. I was there. I was on the stairs. I think there's a picture of me in the background, because you were going for patients. You were doing this for a cause, and I was fully so supportive of what you guys were doing and supporting the medical patients. Because for me, I'm a patient, and cannabis is a major part of a huge part of my recovery at exactly that time in my life. This was in 2009 when you won the case.
Yeah.
When you guys were fighting that, and I was going to Victoria with Dr. Hornby and talking on stages and stopping by Phil's place and picking up the was it the Mountain Jam? I think was what you guys had. Was that you?
The what?
There's a certain strain
At the
that I
Vic,
love so much. The Mountain Jam. There's a couple strains from the Vicks
that was Ted made that famous over there.
Yeah, at the Cannabis
Okay.
Buyers
What
Club.
was the one from the Vicks?
Also in
I always had to go
Victoria,
to. Just back in those times, guys, it was really amazing. Just like I said, I have my notes here. It's really amazing to see. What you guys were doing back then. You were fighting for what people weren't fighting for us. People weren't fighting for patients. It was a whole different battle. And when you won, it was just like, wow, like you set precedents. You changed the game at that point. That's the way I look at it. It was a huge change for the industry of the way people vowed and looked at people growing for patients. It's like it was those next steps.
Wow. I was a grower that was growing for a club that was growing 1,100 plants, and I walked right out the front door. After that, the dispensaries took off, growing took off. Kirk used to call me all the time. He'd be like, "Oh, got a grower today with 500 plants off, 800 plants, 1,000 plants, surely, Your Honor, Mr. Beren had 1,100 plants, got an absolute discharge. My client only had 600 plants, right?" Grower after grower, we're getting let off, and the boom happened.
I think it's important to probably say that we built on the work of a lot of people that went before us as well. Ted fought cases on his own without legal representation and for the members of his club out east. Alan Young and Paul Lewin and others were spearheading legal challenges on behalf of Terry Parker, on behalf of the folks at the Stacopoulos case, the Carousel case. The sort of period from 2000 to 2010 was a period of really intense charter-based litigation in the courts. It started a bit before 2000 with the early Section 56 stuff, but really it was the Parker decision that started that ball rolling downhill. We built on Parker, Hitzig, and Stacopoulos in Matt's case and Beren, and then we had an opportunity to build on that again in the Smith case involving the CBCFC and the challenge to the edibles regs, and we had an opportunity to build on it again in Allard, and it add to the momentum of reform in the courts, which I think had a role to play in reform in the halls of Parliament as well. So, I think it was a great moment to sort of be involved in that stuff.
It's a great time.
Great time.
Back then, man,
Look at this. Thank you.
I'm not all day.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Tough. We, nobody had really turned their mind to two issues. One was sort of sentencing. on the cannabis charge, and the other was the mushroom charge that we'd all sort of forgotten about because there was a bag of mushrooms that the cops found behind Matt's freezer. And you know, to his credit, the Crown sort of said, listen, this wasn't about the mushrooms. We're just gonna make that go away. We didn't put any evidence in about it, so obviously not about that, and he chose not to. Good for him. And then on the sentencing, you know, that they didn't specify a weight, and at the time the CDSA had 2 paths towards resolution. If you were charged with over a certain weight, 3 kilos, you didn't have an option of a discharge. You could have got a suspended sentence, was sort of the best, but that has a criminal conviction attached to it. And you know, the Crown was sort of said, listen, you know, we took a break. The judge was like, nobody's addressed this, and she's like, I want to finish this today, and we were all kind of thinking, we'll come back in a few months and do the sentencing hearing. But I had, you know, prior case law, including that involving Ted, including that involving Philippe Lucas, who was the founder of the club, who, you know, called the police when the club was robbed, and the police recovered the cannabis and then arrested him for possession of it with the purpose of trafficking. He had gotten an absolute discharge through the efforts of John Conroy, QC. And so I was ready to argue the merits of the sentencing. I mean, we'd done fucking 2 years, like 65 days of trial over 2 years. There was no need to go back over the facts. The judge knew the facts, and you know, we had just won the charter decision on the merits, and so I felt reasonably confident that the judge was going to lean our way. So we ended up saying, well, there's no weight specified. You have to sort of err on the side of the defendant in those ambiguous circumstances, and I argued for an absolute discharge. And the interesting thing, as you know, that together we moved towards getting a license to grow cannabis from Health Canada, one of the things you have to pass is a security clearance. Obviously, if you're the master grower, which Matt is going to be. So the judge, in her reasons for giving the discharge, actually said, I'm not giving you a criminal record because it looks like the government's moving towards some legal framework for producing at least medical cannabis, and who knows, beyond that, perhaps recreational cannabis. And I want you to be able to participate in that, Mr. Beren, when the time comes. So I'm not going to give you a criminal record. So, you know, that's always felt like that's pretty good thing to have in your pocket there when it comes time to, you know, go down the security clearance.
Just put that in the application.
And, you know, I think for good reason, right? I mean, the judge was recognizing that there was a sea change in the law and in social values around cannabis under, I mean, at that time, public opinion was swaying dramatically towards legalization generally, right? It wasn't, that ball had picked up a lot of momentum. Yeah. And so, I mean, ironically, of course, we get all these wins, and then the conservatives, you know, Stephen Harper conservatives take office, and they actually go the other direction, and they pass mandatory minimums for 6 plants or more, and, you know, automatic jail terms for trafficking and growing cannabis. And it, you know, legislatively, we were going in the exact opposite direction. And then at the same time, they're being forced to implement this sort of medical cannabis system and a commercial medical cannabis system to boot. So the dichotomy of those two things was really, I think, dramatic. And I don't think we should lose sight of the fact that those laws, those mandatory minimums remained on the books until the Cannabis Act passed.
Yeah, you know, when we saw...
So long fucking road.
Shit, I remember when they told me I had to put my cannabis in kitty litter and put it out on the curb to destroy it back in the days before that was challenged. You remember those days and stuff? Like, you know what, there's so much going on. If you run a legal record
facility, that's one proved method to dispose of.
Yeah, that's still okay. A thing if you're an LP.
Is it?
You can dispose of it by you can dispose of cannabis. I mean,
you can dispose of it other
ways, and then like burying it.
Yeah. I kind of want to roll it back here a little bit to getting back to. I mean, the days of you've been growing for a long time, Matt. I mean, Kurt, when did you start growing? When did you start like getting into the growing? Is it with House of Great Gardener? But I mean, there's some stuff previously we don't know about that you can tell us. Like when was your first grow? We know when Matt first grew, but what got you into like planting a plant? What got you growing?
I mean, I got into sort of cannabis activism when I was arrested for, well, I was selling dime bags of weed at a local park in 1986, and you know, got popped and managed to sort of keep it from my dad until it's time to go to court, because I was a minor. He had to come with me, it turned out, you know. And you know, I just the injustice of it all sort of stuck at me. I was kind of the kid that was interested in, you know, revolution and fighting and the system, and, you know, fuck the man and all that kind of stuff, and smoked a lot of weed and all kinds of other fun stuff. And you know, so my first time I ever grew was about 1987 with some fluorescent lights in the attic of my house above my bedroom when I was in high school. I didn't get much out of it, but plastic cups and, you know, some bag seed that my buddy's older sister, we got some weed from her, and, you know, it had seeds in it, and we were like, oh, we're gonna grow some weed up here. And I didn't get much out of it. I rolled up some dried ass leaves and thought I got high, and it was cool. And I didn't really try too much again till I guess the early 90s. I bought a 400 watt light, and we had a little unused, I guess it had been a sauna or something in the house my wife and I lived in Michigan at the time. And I was like, well, I'm going to get this 400 watt light. And I did some reading and shit. And I'm like, I'm going to grow some weed. Oh, actually, no, we grew some weed in our closet in college too. Anyway, forget that.
He's like, wait,
in my room
in college?
At Michigan State University, we grew a little bit of weed. But yeah, I grew under that 400 watt ballast. I actually still have that ballast and light shade to this day. I've crossed the border 3 different times moving, and I'm always like, gosh, should I get rid of this? I'm like, no, that was your first real like grow light, you know? It was like, it can run both lamps, you know? It's like high fucking tech at the time.
I have my first dual 400 air-cooled shades up there from like 2009. It's awesome.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, nostalgia's great, you know? Like, you got to remember the good and the bad, you know what I mean?
Well, there's something I didn't know about you.
Bad stuff, good. So, yeah. And then I've been sort of growing as a sort of personal medical grower in the MMAR system for quite a while now, under sort of Matt's watchful eye and tutelage. So I've learned hopefully enough to sort of carry my end of the conversation at least. And occasionally I have some good ideas. I like to read, right? So, and I don't sleep much. So in the early days, I spent a whole hell of a lot of time mostly lurking, but doing a lot of reading on the CC forums, but for growing more on the IC Mag forums. I mean, there's so much fucking knowledge still to be gained there from old threads that are, it's just amazing the amount of knowledge out there that people were freely sharing with each other all the time.
Do you have a handle on these forums that people can find you when they're there? Because it seems like that you got, I mean, their knowledge on cannabis is, when it comes to law, I sent you everybody I knew back in the day. So, oh yeah, just get a hold of Kurt. Let's get a hold of him.
Okay.
You remember people calling on the side of the road. I got you calling some people. You helped out so many people. It was. I remember he actually had his bag of weed handed back to you. He goes, I don't want to escape you, man, but this guy just saved my life. And I was like, hell yeah. Rich, yeah, I got a few names in there, people you've helped back in the past. It's been pretty amazing. I mean, I've known you guys for a long time. We've shared stages together back in TY, Matt, when I won my cups, you were winning yours, and then you went on farther. You started winning Dabadoos, you started winning Spanibus cups. Like, you're growing and your passion. I mean, let's talk about that. Like what you, I mean, some of these cups, a lot of people don't know you guys and where you're growing right now, which we're going to get into a little bit later. We got some little video clips coming in here, but I mean, But we listening to the roots. You've been fighting for patience. You've been growing for patience. You're OGs. You love the industry. You've been growing for since you've been younger. You've always been about. You're truly part of the culture. You guys are OGs in this industry, and that's why it's great to have you here. I'm so excited to talk about those next steps.
We're old guys.
Still got some brown.
Old guys.
Old guys, dude. We made it.
We made it.
We made it to the old dudes. Oh, sorry, the old guy status. Old guy status. I love it.
Speaking of old dudes, go ahead.
I mean, for me, after the court case, I mean, during the court case, I ended up buying the hydro shop on the Indoor Jungle on Quadra Street in Victoria. I mean, I owned that I was a part of that for 5 or 6 years. And then when I sold that, it was a decision to start the seed bank. And the seed bank was a decision sort of after the trial. And it was like, for me, it was like the next step to people and their medicine was like, okay, if someone finds the strain that works for them, if we also offer the seeds to that strain that works for them, it'll give someone the additional level of, hey, if they come in the club and that's not there anymore, right? They still have the seeds, they still have access to it. So I think we were like, just having that thought, I think, will help make people feel better. So we started taking all of the stuff that worked at the Vicks, indica, sativa, the whole range. And I mean, you had Soma on here the other day. So Soma was the one that taught me how to fem seeds. So I've known Soma for over 20 years. And he's the guy that taught me how to fem seeds and at that time. And so then we started femming everything and making the seeds for the club and selling them to the patients of the club. And then, I mean, going into the competitions, for us, it started with a certain club out there gave us our Haoma, like a pound of Haoma strain back and said, nobody likes that strain, right? And I was told, nobody likes this. Gave it back to me and I was like, what are you talking about? So we actually entered that pound of weed into the TY cup and said, well, let's see what it does in the TY cup. And it got first place. It got first place in the Capacity Club category. So that was our sort of introductory of getting into the competitions, and then going sort of global, because I mean we come from a time when, I mean, you wanted to talk to people that knew how to grow weed, you had to go to Amsterdam in November at the Cannabis Cup or read the High Times magazine. I mean, there was no other information about growing weed, and even High Times magazine was sort of tough to come by. It's not readily available like it got to. So I mean, I used to go to Amsterdam. I mean, that's how I met Soma. It was just a little kid. It was just a kid. I was a little kid. I mean, 26 years ago.
It's a long story. I'm gonna smoke this dude while he tells it.
I
26 years ago today.
I rolled like 8 joints. So
go to the show. Out those guys. I seek out Soma. You know, I became good friends with Simon. You know, Simon's now like my main mentor.
Yes.
Guys like Shanti Baba and Hank from I mean, all the old guys. That's what my passion was. I always had questions for these guys. How do I do this? You know, when I cross these two things together, that, you know, it's not doing what I want to. And then I go ask those guys and they would tell me like, oh, you should try this. Right. And it was always the same. It'd be like, well, what should I do after that? And they're like, oh, well, do that. And then come back and tell me what happened. Right. So I always had to go back. So I was always going to, you know, I started going to the High Times Cup in Amsterdam probably 97, 98. I started going, and then Soma asked me to lecture on the PAX Party House on the main stage in 99, because I had this weight training program. I was like weight training the plants, and he loved it. So he put me up on the stage, you know, and I mean, and And then eventually the High Times guys, we were in Spain one year, all at the same hotel, and the High Times guys were there. Someone was there, everybody was there. And I had some Barber Bud hash on me, and we were all smoking it. And then I always remember the one great comment of the weekend was, I can't believe I came all the way to Spain and the best hash I smoked was from that dude from Canada. And those were the High Times guys. And then after that, the High Times guys invited me to enter into the High Times Cup in Amsterdam. So I got to enter into the High Times Cup in Amsterdam twice. We have 3 awards that we got from there, a second, a third, and we won the CBD award, because CBD wasn't even a category at that time. It was just like this new thing on the block, and we had created the CBD Renee by then. And then that shut down, and Spandibus became the next big thing. And then Simon from Serious Seeds, he sort of took us under his wing. And so we got to sort of do the European tour. I mean, we've done the European tour for 6 years.
It was great. Tour.
It's fantastic.
It's been quite amazing. Like just watching you just go around the world and just do what you love to do. I mean, for me, it's I had a chance to go to a couple of these events, and I had a fantastic time. And doing the same thing you were saying, like when I went to High Times, all I did was talk about weed. And that's when I got to really get to know Franco. I got to meet him in 2011 at TY, and we talked about weed. And that's all we did was talk about. All the guys from Amsterdam, like, you got to come to Amsterdam. So I went that next year. Like you said, it's like, that's all we did was just talk about growing. It was just so amazing. It's too bad that isn't happening today, but we're doing this like this day. We're talking about growing. We're talking about what we have and what you've learned and stuff like that.
Sure. That's for me.
I'm just like
finding the old guys, man. Finding the old guys. I mean, there's a few guys that I know that are like the fairy tale story, right? I mean, there's I bought myself a 16th century castle and I'm just fixing it up now, right? I mean, there's a few guys out there that you're just like, wow, right? The success story, the story that would make the best movie you'd ever heard, but you could never tell the story. I mean, those are the guys I like.
You're part of that movie. Like, come on! I mean, the strides that we've done in the industry, and I mean, now I haven't even really even started. Let's talk about. I mean, you know what? Like, I did. I'm going to talk about House of Great Gardener. And a few steps in the beginning there and what you were growing with and what was happening with that. But we actually do have a few little clips from you guys' Instagram that I want to share with these guys. But first I want you guys to talk a little about it. Then we're going to go and share some of these Instagram pics because they're pretty awesome. I follow you guys like crazy. You always keep me loving and commenting and stuff like that. So we're going to show you that. But I mean, now we're moving in. So you've won all these cups. I mean, you've been growing, you've been doing this, Kurt, you've been fighting, and you've been standing up. You won the Help Brother Coalition Against Your Pal. We were able to grow our own. Things are moving forward, and I mean, now you're getting into the seed business. I'll be following you. You're working with Serious Seeds. You're working with Simon. I saw you at Spandibus. Like, hey, what are these guys up to? And Barber Bud is starting to become more and more known. So we got those first strains. We're not going to talk about the new ones released right now, but the first strains that were being released. And tell me more about House of Great Gardener. Tell us.
Wow, I mean, it's the story of Barber Bud, really.
There you go.
I mean, Barber Bud, for whatever reason, right, makes not only fantastic hash, but it makes a lot of fantastic hash. So, I mean, in Europe, I mean, you could go to virtually any club in Barcelona and you'll find Barber Bud hash, because what happened was the Moroccan farmers got a hold of it. And all of a sudden, the Moroccan farmers are producing 30–40% more hash on top of what they already are. But the quality of the hash was fantastic. And right. Barber Bud has sort of long, the terpenes stick around for a long time. So the guys in Morocco, for them, it's the hash that they can mix the sort of crappier hash with, and they put the Barber Bud hash in with it. And then they try to sell that to you as the Barber Bud. And if you don't know, right? I mean, I was there. When I was there, we were looking for 3 kilos of of Barber Bud hash, right? We were just like, the guys I was with, that's what they were looking for. And they'd bring out like 10, right? And put them on the table, and you go through them and you smell them, you're like, oh yeah, that one does, kinda does, right? And then all of a sudden one is like, whoa, that's one for sure, right? And then, but out of the 10, that's it. You'd be like, oh, that's only this one. And like, oh, yeah, well, oh, yes, 1 second. And then they go back and they bring out another 10. And of that 10, only one would be good. Because if you didn't have the nose to figure it out, because to anybody that knows the smell, you could say all 10 were. So after that, I mean, now it's what, the fifth year? And now it's got to the point where because the farmers, everything, it gets crossed with the local bodega, and it's everywhere now. I mean, she's on her own journey really now. So
I had no idea.
For us now, so because of that now, I mean, I've focused a lot of my breeding on the Barb. We're working on, we call it the Better Barb Project right now, working on a better regular and a better femme and an auto, because I think the auto is going to be a big thing in the Canadian outdoor scene. And then we have the new line that we just created of all the Barb crosses, and with a lot of the local favorites of today: Wedding Cake, Gorilla Glue, Skittles.
I got it.
Yeah.
I was going to talk to you about it. Not there yet, though, because people don't even know what's going on.
That's page like 40.
Whoa, slow down here. I have to actually like do this properly now, because you know what? Everybody's got such great information. Everybody wants to hear what you guys are doing, because I'm excited. I've been following you, so it's like, whoa, slow down here. So, I mean, now. There's some, you're working in the industry, you're winning all these cups, you're starting the seed company, and House of Great Gardener was always around, but I mean, you really started doing some things at this point. You start working in the legal industry, because we're all curious on the steps that you guys are doing with how you guys are growing. So I'm going to show you these fields pretty quick. But you did a little joint adventure with Canopy. That was a small venture, short-lived, which was, great. I don't know the details. I don't think, if you want to share them, great. If not, we don't really care.
We had a great relationship with Canopy. Yeah.
Perfect.
I learned a lot, at least individually, mostly about sort of non-cannabis things, mostly about sort of what it takes to produce a crop at scale and then market it, distribute it, and move it around, not just the country, but internationally. I mean, the scope of what is going on in a big company like that is hard to fathom. I mean, I ran my own law practice, right? These people are running thousands of different employees and trades and construction sites and fucking marketing teams and IP. It's pretty remarkable, the complexity that arises, and the challenges that brings. So it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool learning experience, and hopefully we taught some things about our love for the plant as well, and
I guarantee
everybody benefited from the relationship.
Oh, it was great. It was reciprocal. I mean, we got to see the big systems. I mean, how to run on a scale that was we used to drive by those greenhouses by the ferry for years, thinking, man, it'd be so awesome to grow weed in them. And I mean, we got to stand in them and be like, hey, we're growing weed in them.
We're growing weed in these things.
Mean, it was fun. It was a fun experience.
Well, I mean, when I went to the Lift conference and I came around the corner, I saw the House of Great Gardener booth being put up. I was just like,
Great Gardener Farms.
Great Gardener Farms, yeah.
I mean, Don and Aaron were there from DNA. It was like family was there. It was just really, I was so excited for you guys. Like for me, it's doing what you love to do, and you can only see that's what you love to do, and that's what you're striving for. And now you guys have got this whole new thing going on, and this is where I get to cut into a video and take a little bit of a break, get my dinner ready. You know what I mean? We're going to show you what you guys got growing on right now, and then we're going to talk more about what you're growing there and more about that. So,
pardon me? A
quick update on the indoor living soil action. We got some French fire and some grapefruit in these living soil pots. Left over from my organic bed. Under some Gavitas. As you can see, they're starting to come along. Things are looking kind of nice. Excited with how things have turned out. Wasn't too sure about the living soil in these relatively small pots, but haven't fed these plants. Just let them go, and pretty happy with the results so far.
I'm just going to start here as a reference because these barb plants are enormous. And then as we walk across, look at this enormous plant. We'll walk right into the orange barb section. Now these plants are growing. They're growing. But just haven't quite grown out of it. All the way down. I mean, you got Barber Bud all the way down here. Enormous, super healthy. A whole section of it, right? And then over here, you just got orange barb. That's the update. She keeps growing. No signs of flower yet. Just walking in the field of barb. Oh my God, I just fell in a fucking hole. God damn it. Walking in a field of beautiful barb. Oh man, jarred my spine. I can't believe we got like 4-foot spacings on these plants, and they're just getting to the point where they can touch each other. Action.
Hey everybody, here we are in the outdoor personal garden. This is some grapefruit barb. As you can see, it's enjoying the climate and the conditions here in the Cowichan Valley quite tremendously. These are all being grown in pot pots, 45-gallon pot pots, natural soil. It's from my living soil bed. We've given them a little bit of top dressing with the Gaia greens that our good friend Paul Gonzoponics brought over to us. And we're loving it, and they're loving it, more importantly. I mean, look at the size of this plant. It's just absolutely massive. Pretty much time to put some netting around it so it doesn't fall down. That's the update. Living soil, organic, outdoors. Great Gardener Farms.
I think we're coming back here now. We're back. Well, you know, we weren't even talking about the videos that you guys were watching. We had this great conversation just about, because we weren't really watching, but what you guys just missed was that last video you just put up on Instagram, some of the beginning stages of you guys growing inside. And then I want to talk about that armor truck, because I mentioned that. Like, I don't know if people got to see this, but so you got all of this weed growing in these fields out there, but how'd you get there? And what happened with that? Like, what did you have to go through to get all that weed to that field, by the way? Because these guys saw all the fields, so.
Well, So we made a great relationship with the good folks at Alternatives Farms. They're a licensed cultivator, standard cultivator in the valley here. Locals, friend of a friend. Went over and sort of had a meeting, hit it off with them. They have 25 acres of licensed outdoor space and a greenhouse and some indoor space. And we had an opportunity with the termination of the relationship with Canopy. We had phenotyped 3 strains that we were going to launch on the market through that relationship: the Orange Barb, the Ultra CBD Renee, which is a high CBD, low THC, under 1% THC cultivar of Renee, about 15% CBD, and Barber Bud, which came in about 24% in the greenhouse. Now, we phenotyped them in the greenhouse, and they grew quite well there. But we had an opportunity to have those genetics sent from Canopy to our friends at Alternatives Farms. And that involves, because of some of the, onerousness of the regulatory scheme that doesn't make a lot of sense to me still, that involves a level of security. Now, Canopy has a relationship with Brinks Security that's, been publicly announced when they entered into that relationship. And so, I guess they shipped them in the Brinks truck, because the day we went to go meet our clones at the Alternatives farm down the road,
well,
they were.
They flew in. They flew in on the airplane first.
Planes, trains, and
planes,
ferries, and security.
Trucks.
I mean, it had it all, right?
It's awesome.
So they bring, and you're talking about 3,000 clones or so. It's not a lot, right? I mean, it's like 50 tubs with some clones in each one. And
it was like 3 pallets.
And they were actually super healthy, survived the journey really well, were really nice clones. And we appreciated that greatly. And, the Brinks backed up the Brinks truck and unloaded it with our green gold, so to speak, and started to harden them off under a homemade sort of shade cloth that we threw together out in the field.
What people got to see in the video here, when we were talking, is you have the shades on the field and how you're going along, and you just got to just plant those. It's pretty cool. It's kind of like, that's cool. You cannot say it like, that's pretty cool.
Alternatives had a great little machine there, and it's a pretty standard planting machine. All we really had to do was decide on the spacing for the plants, which was a bit of a guess. Like, we got them in the ground late in the season. June here in BC, for people that weren't here, was just utterly miserable this year. It's often called January because it can get cold and kind of nasty, but this was a year that was just gross the whole month.
3 weeks solid.
Rain, gray. So anyway, we got them into that field, I think, like the second week of July. So we're kind of guessing at spacing. But that machine was great. It's a ton of fun to ride. We got 3 acres and 3,300 plants or so planted in a few hours of work. And we planted
3 people.
It's a family farm there. And so, they were driving the tractor, and Matt and I planted every single one of those by hand. Well, by hand with the tractor, right? We missed a couple. We might have missed a couple along the way. That does happen. It's a long day out there in the sun, but it's good fun. Anytime you're working with cannabis, you put a little labor in, and you think about, you think as you're putting the plant in, you think, I want you to grow big and strong and enjoy your new home, and it works out. Turns out our spacing was pretty spot on too, especially for the Barb, because they're just right at like peak size, and they're like
going into flower.
They're just about touching, but not touching. Yeah, so worked out really well.
The Orange Barb, not so bad.
The Orange Barb loved the greenhouse and really dislikes the bright sun. Really, really dislikes it. So it's still growing. It's going to be fascinating to see what the buds look like. I mean, ultimately, this is all new to us. We haven't done big outdoor, or I guess you call it small to medium outdoor in this new era. For us, it's big, but we haven't done it before. So we're learning, and it's a great learning experience.
And thank you for sharing that with everybody, because it's really cool to watch it. I mean, your guys' Instagram, if you don't know, please shout them out so people can. We're going to say it a couple times, but where are you guys watching this live right now? How are people watching you guys? What you're doing? What they just saw? Where are they seeing that?
I mean, I'm Kirk Tousaw on every social media, and you asked about forum names and stuff. I just use my real name. Maybe it's the only place I don't use my real name is Twitch, where I'm Sativa Advocate. But everywhere else, it's my real name. And I don't stream on Twitch yet, so there you go.
And I'm just Great Gardener on Instagram. I mean, that's where I post most of my stuff. You can find me. I think it's Great Gardener _ on Twitter.
It is.
And yeah, that's about it for me.
And if you want to follow the company, Great Gardener Farms, which is the Canadian company that's, you know, doing the stuff in the licensed space, that's Great Gardener Farms on Twitter and Instagram. We'll be that across all social media as well, but not currently super active on that company account yet, because, you know, we're just sort of getting there.
Coming to market.
So what's I mean, now we just talked about what you guys were growing. I mean, what are you guys growing with now? Like, what is this new adventure? I mean, are you a seed? Like, are you selling? Are we able to get holy? Can I orders? Like, tell me more. Really.
With this micro LP that you see us building now, the phase 1 part of the project is actually has a seed base to it. So I'm not sure how many we're gonna bring to the market, but our initial intention is to get into the seed business. Not only just with the retail, but working with outdoor LPs every every working on the autos. I think autos are going to be a big thing in Canada. So, I mean, our auto barb, I'm just finishing the F6 generation right now of the auto barb. So right. seeds. And then phase 2, we'll get into producing buds. And I mean, because if I'm doing seeds, I'm also doing hash, because the byproduct of making seeds is hash.
Yeah.
So.
Now here's another question. Is that going to be now with the seed company? Are you only able to sell to other LPs, or can you actually sell to the public, to like one of these legal stores we can actually go in and purchase seeds?
Yeah, exactly. You'll be able to buy. The intention is for you to be able to buy the seeds at retail stores, legal retail stores across Canada.
So if someone wants to grow 4 plants, they can go and buy 4 auto barbs out of their local, wherever they're going. There's all these different names. And they can get 4 and they can plant them in the spring, and they can have some great buds in the fall, because you guys are growing them outside.
Absolutely.
We're going to be able to see this happening live. We're going to be able to see what strains are working. This is awesome, you guys. Like, this is like the next, like, we're looking at the future of cannabis, and people are not going out as much, and people want to stay home, and they want to grow their own, they want to be self, and if they can buy those seeds, because don't forget, it's legal in Canada. People can grow their own, like 4 plants, but it's pretty easy to get an PPR license and actually add on to that. I was up in Chloe yesterday, and another big fields on the side of the road type deal. Ross was at Ross Bigliotti's place. He had a bunch of plants in his outdoors. We're checking out those, and he was mentioning your guys' and your strains. And then I want to talk about the OG. I want to talk about the Lavender OG. See, now I have a list here now. Like, I was like, wait a second. So, I mean, my interview last week with Soma was just fantastic. I love the guy. When I first met him, it was in Amsterdam myself, same thing. And it was just like, oh, see what happens? You stop talking. We focus on Lavender.
That's Lavender Barb.
That's the Lavender Barb right there.
Lavender OG. I mean, the Lavender OG is one of those strains, and I mean,
number 4.
I mean, I just had this conversation with someone yesterday about finding a gem, right? What does it mean for me to find a gem versus someone that's just started growing weed to find a gem, right? Someone that just started growing weed can take 10 seeds and find something awesome because they've never done it before. But the more that you grow, and the more Finos and the more, you know, this kind, let's try all this companies, let's try all this companies, right? And to find that a gem. And I mean, the Lavender OG was a gem. I mean, the aroma was like so unique, right? It's unique. You can't sit there and smell it and be like, oh, that's a Kush, that's a cookies, or right? I mean, it's just, it's a thing. I mean, Barb is like that too. Barb has that uniqueness to it that can't be found. And I mean, for us at the time, we were gathering a bunch of strains to cross with the Barb to do this Barb project. And I mean, as soon as we found the Lavender OG, it was like, actually, called Soma and asked his permission to use it, asked his permission to use his name in the advertising, and you know, so I turned it into the sort of GG Bless cross with the One Love. So I mean, it's great. It's great. It's a great strain. It's I mean, you're going to sleep like smoking.
Not everybody.
It's
not
strong.
everybody.
It's strong. I think it's 25.
I asked Soma about
28%.
and he said Matt's got it for you. I'm like, okay, perfect. I'm coming over.
Text me your address. It's legal to do that, you know. If you have legal weed, you can legally mail it to you. We're legal to possess it because we legalized weed here in Canada.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, baby.
I can put a Mentorship. I can throw a couple buds in here, ship it them. Like, here, try out some weed. It's awesome.
You can ship them right over to us.
I like the glow in the dark one you sent me. You sent me the last time you sent me something. You sent me the glow in the dark one. I mean, it lights up.
There's the lavender there.
It's a wine tar.
Turn the lamp off. It's like, oh, it's the meditainer.
And we have two Finos of the Lavender OG cross with the Barb, Lavender Barb that we'll send over to you. It'd be interesting to hear your take on which one you prefer and why.
100%. I mean, I'm an OG guy, and you know, D420K Darren, like he's got another OG strain, which I know there's another OG. I'm gonna leave it at that.
One of our new hats.
Yeah.
I need a hat. I wear hats everywhere. I mean, normally you're wearing the Spannabis hats.
And
I don't have a great gardener hat. Maybe
we'll send you a box of stuff I give away. We'll send you a promo box.
Yeah, there you go.
Shoot us an address. We'll send you a promo box.
Yeah.
I'll send you my address.
We have all stuff.
I mean, you guys got really great things
going
on.
Merch, baby.
I'm gonna need a shirt right now. I'm just sneaking out right now. But I mean, we just talked about the Lavender OG, but I'm really curious. I mean, you got Sticky Barb. I mean, you got some pretty cool strains coming out here. I mean, I still got 5 minutes left of you guys' time, so I got 5 strains. So I got a minute of strain. So the Sticky Barb.
Hit us.
Gorilla Glue number 4 across with the Barb. Beefy, meaty, chunky.
Yeah.
I mean, indica.
I'd pull some out, but I think it's all smoked, so that tells you something.
Well, I'm gonna smoke some Gorilla Glue number 4 here, and just in favor of that because I actually have that right now. So that's cool. Here, the Rainbow Barb.
Skittles.
Is that 3 Skittles?
That's we actually have 3 cuts of that one. 4 actually. Yeah. They are all sort of really, really nice.
That's like my daily driver right now is the Rainbow.
That your daily driver?
Yeah, smoke it all day long, no burnout.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that your daily driver is your
just a steady
Barb, daily. What's your okay? Now we're gonna go through these now.
For me, because I like.
You already mentioned.
Here comes the wedding cake bar. That's the number 4 Fino of that, and then we have the number 3 Fino over here somewhere too. Pretty tasty, good buzz, like really kind of a nice feel. I think I prefer the 3. It's a little like sweeter, has more of that sort of cakier feel to it, but but it's good stuff. And the name, big shout out to our boy Rich, who came up with the name. That's just beautiful.
Yeah,
Wedding cake Barb, here comes the Barb.
That one was like the first one named, I think.
Come on now.
Sold.
I like that. I mean, here it comes. Yeah, see, I had no idea. And now that you said that, now that I know, because I look at things, it's more of like getting that information live, and I know what it is, and I like that. That's cool. Now, grapefruit barb is probably pretty much straightforward. Grapefruit crust barb, or are we kind of like something different?
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, we had two grapefruit Finos. We had more of a shorter, purplier one that finished a bit early. And then we had the sort of more traditionally stretched out one. I guess it would be more sativa, but it never purpled. It got very pale. That one, all throughout growing, the more lankier one stank of grapefruit the most. And it was always but the other one grew so much better and had just sort of a visual appeal. And then the other one, when it finished and it sort of caught, like I'd say 90% of the way up to the other one. So it grabs you. It's got big notes on the nose. I love it. I like the citrusy strain, so I'm a big fan.
It's by far the most aromatic of them, and it's pushing 30% THC.
Yeah, it's like 29.5. But it doesn't get you sort of
super stoned.
The super baked.
You smoke the lavender. You roll a lavender Barbie. You're getting half the joint done, and you come back and you're like, oh, half the joint's still there.
Nice.
That kind of. The
grapefruit
the last.
Strain, it was one. It's one of the more popular strains in the clubs back in the days. It was grapefruit, and as I always say, it was one of those more popular ones we always saw. So hearing the grapefruit coming back and then talking about and then crossing it with that barb, like you're saying, it's a daily, I like that. We're getting down to one of the last ones here, the Island Sweet barbs. So I mean, I think that was the strain I used to always try to go to Vic to get, was the Island Sweet Skunk. So I'm curious on what's going on with that strain, guys.
So that project came about because of Gibson from Gibson Glass. He texted me and said, hey, can you make me a strain? And then we started gabbing, and I was like, oh, what strains do you like? And he was like, oh, Island Sweet Skunk and Barb. And I was like, I probably already have that crossed together. So I went into the seed vault and found old Island Sweet Skunk crossed with the Barb that I made like 8 years ago. So I was like, all right, let's start these out. And I think out of like 100 seeds, only one germinated. Right? I was just like, whoa. And then that plant turned out to be a pretty nice plant.
Yeah.
So we ended up femming it into itself, and now it's at the stage where we're going to grow those out and look for a couple of good phenos and take it down. So, but anyways, it was a fun project, and it had a cool island connection with Gibson. So,
and that pipe I was just showing you is his work.
Yeah, he made this pipe,
custom pipe with the logo on it. So thank you very much, man.
Awesome.
It's killer. All we need to do is get some
Yeah.
It's a little dirty. Yeah.
It happens.
He's awesome. I had no idea, so I love that. I mean, I love what you guys are doing. It's just, if I take a look, and now this last hour is really like the history of what you guys have done, where you were going, what you become, and where you're growing now, which is I'm so looking forward to being able to watch over the next 20. I know, we're not going anywhere, guys. We're kind of all locked in this together, which is just the community and giving back and helping people understand and grow and get them what they need, which is the education that we're offering here today, and learning more about what you guys got growing on, what's happening. You have your website, so anymore, I want to get you guys really want to know exactly. We got your Instagram shout out. You go to your website. When are we able to kind of start getting stuff from the website? Right now, is that just something to click and look and read about and educate yourself on?
Yeah, if people go to greatgardenerfarms.ca or .com, they can They can sort of check out the information on the 3 strains that we phenotyped, which we have growing in the field now, and we're hoping to harvest and actually make some hash out of, especially the Barber Bud. Now, you know, BC rain. Let's hope it stays away.
We'll see.
That's all you can do right now. Let's hope it stays away. But yeah, check it out. We'll be, as we sort of have more things happening, we'll be updating people. You can sign up for the email list and things like that. But
you guys make sure you check out how do you freeze a whole field worth of weed. That'll be a cool video.
I'm looking forward to that one right now. That's going to be awesome, guys. I really want to thank you guys for showing up here and just showing your passion and sharing your passion with us and what you guys have been doing.
Thanks,
Kurt. It was really good to even get to know you even more. I had no idea. You might have told me these stories, maybe, but I mean, we've shared so much time together over the years. So many events. I mean, I followed you guys. You guys you're like mentors when you did back with Vix, what you were doing for the patients. I mean, I remember being on the stairs and see where things are going, where you guys are today, and just thanks for the patients,
hey, man.
Thanks for the people, and
I still remember that email you sent into the CCC where you were bragging about your 98% THC something, and I was just like, what are you talking about, Johnny B? And it ended up, and it was like, it just turned into, there was like a simple explanation for it, but it was just interesting. It's one of those things you remember from back in the day. You were like, I'm calling my friend Dr. Horby, and he's like, then Dr. Horby was like, no, it's this, and it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
You know,
so
I mean,
that's an email list for newer viewers.
The knowledge. I mean, we were just learning and terpenes. Got interested, and I mean, all that stuff. I mean, just the cycle of making hash to making it bubbly to making it liquidy to pressing it. And
we're still scratching the surface of our knowledge of this plant and what it can be and what it can do and how it can help people and how it can just put smiles on people's faces. If you go to other sort of consumables like wine with the sensory experience and the sort of deep history, hundreds to thousands of years of beer making, wine making, spirits distilling, and a huge culture that was never sort of forced really to be underground. We're just scratching the surface of what we're going to become in the next 5, 10, 100, 500,000 years. It's really exciting to be part of this.
At the beginning,
because it's the liberation of the plant, and I think it's going to spread from Canada around the world, and I think it's going to happen soon. I think the pace is going to accelerate.
It definitely is, guys. And
2003.
Miss you guys.
All right,
I wish we could do more, hang out, and just talk more. And I want to thank everybody for showing up for Pod.TV. And we got all of our shows that go on through the week. You got right now I'm gonna throw a Marijuana Man out there on Wednesdays. He's always throwing down some great stuff. BC Bud Gal on Thursdays, and we got Neil Magnuson on Tuesdays, and we got, well, I don't know if Carly and Raleigh still doing a show on Mondays, but we got all these great shows. But I mean, with you guys, thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing your fields. Check these guys out. Definitely, guys, go to their Instagrams, go to the website, follow their Instagrams. It's awesome watching them in the field, seeing what's happening. What's that tall one you just posted? What's that tallest one you got up there? You got to get a ladder for it. Which one's that?
That's a grapefruit barb. That's a grapefruit barb, and it's in my living soil that I had to bed indoors here for a couple runs. And that's actually part of the renovation we're doing for the micro cultivation license. I had to rip the bed out, and I said, let's just do some 45-gallon pots outside. And
just fed them water. Haven't done anything to them. Just fed them water.
Put them on a blue mat system and sort of walked away. It's awesome. It's been pretty incredible to watch it happen, actually.
It is incredible to watch, and I hope
you guys brother.
Too. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming. Everybody keep growing. How's it going? We'll be back next week. We'll have a whole new lineup, some great people coming on. We'll be announcing that pretty soon. We got some people some CEOs from lighting farms, from nutrient companies, and these some people who actually called and said, hey, we want to be on the show too. We want to say some stuff. So they're going to bring some knowledge about what they're doing and what they're growing down the U.S. up here to some of you guys up here. So all you LPs, you're going to be really interested in this next show coming up for the next couple of weeks, because this guy, I'm not talking anymore. I'm going to just kind of leave you on the hook. Thanks, guys. Peace. We'll see you again soon. So,
Later.
guys, you guys are awesome.
I wasn't kidding when I said I was gonna roll this sucker right in here. Woohoo! So now we're gonna get this hooked up to the Troll Master. Okay, guys, so we already have a line sitting here. We already have this kind of rolled in, so we're gonna roll this one in here and get this one set up to the Troll Master. And what's great about this, it's got a drain right here. So you know, hook up the drain and drain this right out the hole, right out the wall, and right into our res. So we'll just have to lift her up a little bit and get that up in the air about a foot. Might have to take this sucker out after all that work of putting her in, eh? And then we're gonna work on the AC unit. We're gonna actually take out this big air handler because the AC unit's too big now. Third world problems. Anyways, we're working on this, guys. Dialing in VPD. It's gonna get that sweet spot. Okay, guys, so this is going to be what we're watering at right now, and we're actually going to be checking the pH. What's pretty cool is I just got off the phone with Grandmaster Level, and he's like, your leaves are curling. He's talking about daily light intake and too much sun, too much light, and I want to check my pH because we see what's going on in here. Our tips are curling. We're seeing some deficiencies, and I was like, okay, maybe it was just the seed ones, but you know what we're doing here right now is we're going to do a whole kind of run. I'm going to grab some water. We got it in the auto pot here, and we're just going to kind of do this as a runoff. I'm going to pour this through. That's just going to kind of drain right into the bottom there. I can always see water running through the bottom, so it's definitely dry. I'm going to do a double run here so we get a little bit more water, because we want to have a good runoff right now to ensure we get a proper pH test reading here. Get her flowing. Gonna let that drain. Just gonna set it like that. Kind of let that flow through there. Then we're gonna test that pH, guys. So we're gonna bring that back over here and test it. Alright, it's nice in here because we got the AC. So that was 6.6. Do our runoff, dump that in there. Now we'll see what we get out of this, guys. Okay, and our pH coming out is a little high. It's not that bad, actually. I'm gonna say that runoff is pretty good. I thought it needed water, and maybe that's just gonna help it right now. So now I put that in at 6.6 and it came out at 6.7, so that's pretty good, right? I'm pretty happy with that. Now what Grandmaster Level said and what I was talking with him about, and I'm seeing some deficiencies, is with the LEDs, believe it or not, you got to raise the pH, and once you do, you're going to see a huge difference. We're used to the 6.3, he says, but the 6.6 is that next number. You know, it sounds crazy, he says, but if you do that, you're going to see some big differences. So, you know what? I just did the rinse with the 6.6. It came out at 6.7. So that's telling me at least that that's going to hopefully start to recover. We did have that lockout. We did that spray. We had a few different problems. We're also looking at daily light intervals. We're looking at the DLI, daily light intervals. We'll start talking about that. I'm going to have a chart to go over with you guys to talk about maybe these plants are getting just too much light. Maybe me hitting them in the beginning with those veg. Maybe I was just learning and doing things wrong. It looked great, but things aren't looking as great now that we're going into flower in week 2 and we're seeing some things happening here. Maybe, and I was like, yeah, I'm blaming it on nutrients because I did the same thing. And there was too much light and the pH was too low. So if you change that pH and that magnesium, you're going to see a difference. And I'm like, the people from Mars Hydrolite said that to me and says, oh, you got to add more magnesium. Someone said you got to follow the feeding charts with LEDs. And this was in my videos, and I was like really thinking about it, and then I'm getting some confirmation. We're seeing what's going on in here. So you're gonna bring that pH up, add a little bit more magnesium in there, and then see what happens in here, guys. So we're just gonna keep growing and getting through this. But we're gonna nail it. Only week 2, right? We still got like 8 weeks to go. Think those sativas are gonna be ready in the next 4 weeks? So as we're gonna grow in here, we're gonna take a really good look at what's happening. So we're seeing all these deficiencies. We're seeing the Carl shoes coming through really nicely. We're seeing these 24-week sativas kind of pulling through. We moved a few of these outside, but now we're starting to see it in the Medi Kush a little bit. We're starting to see some deficiencies here. So we're gonna actually top this up with a different feed here. Not yet, probably in about 2 days. I just did a heavy water, and now my tips are asking for food. So now they're asking for food instead of now too much food, which is good, guys. So we're getting some good development here. Day 14, and you can say, yeah, look at that. Woo-wee. Wow. You ever think that maybe you can actually give your plants too much light? So I'm going on about how I did the spray with the bug be gone, and then I used Medi 1, and then I used a shot of Remo Nutrients. We know everybody's killing it with Remo Nutrients. Like, so what's growing on in this room? I'm really taking a look at daily light intervals. So DLI. So this is really, really important, because what we're seeing here right now, guys, is too much light. The intensity was so hard, and I was so stoked on looking at the sunshine and taking a look at PPFD and not really reading into if there's too much light. And what we're seeing here, guys, as you can see, I've raised the light, and you can see some of these colors that were happening here. Now, this is what we call light intensity. Too much light, guys. Where we're seeing curling, tips curling up. I thought it was nutrient burn. Like, how can I burn my plants? I've been growing for so long with such little nutrients. It's like, what's growing on out here, right? Like, of course, I'm bugging up. So, I'm thinking, you know, I gotta put these plants outside, see if I can fix them outside, right? So, you know, I come outside, and you can see what's going on out here. We're getting a nutrient deficiency, we're getting light deficiency, too much light. This is happening here, nothing to do with the spray, nothing to do with nutrients. And I'm seeing it in some of these plants too, whitening out, just went out in the sun. So you're seeing some changes here. And these are getting greener again, they're picking back up. Well, the sunshine is the right light, right? I know I'm gonna get a haircut. It will happen. But my hairdresser happens to be on Vancouver Island. So it's kind of one of those things. So I'm doing all this research. I'm talking about it, I'm talking with friends. Oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, you got lockout. So of course, friends are awesome, right? So I pick up some of this Supernatural Green Stay. This is a great product. We're similar to like Green Up, as you can see. But this is a 3.5 and 0. This is just a plain old 1. See, 100. We got more magnesium in there. A few things I thought was lacking. So get on the phone, and I'm finding out I need to bring my pH up to 6. We're looking at the light intensity and how I'm learning this. Of course, Google is fantastic, and I'm doing all kinds of lessons and reading to myself. I'm learning, right? How cannabis and when learning how to grow cannabis. But we take a look at solutions, and we're going all the way up here, guys. You ready for it? Worst symptoms of grow lights. See what's going on there? See that? Okay, light burn. See this? It's something we just saw. It's something we're just looking at live on the plants. What we did in this grow room here. Now, here's the whole thing. I took clones from those plants, right? And we get into that, and I'm thinking, okay, those clones came from the same plants. I'm like, well, what's going on in here? I'm getting the same kind of deficiencies. Why? Why is this happening? These lights are intense. Learning how to set them properly and learning how to grow with LEDs is going to be a key factor in this green rush of growing with LED lights, because we know it's efficient, we know it works, and now we know it's got too much light because there's no heat coming from that. So I was told to take the heat of my tips of my canopy, look at the heat, which I'll do today with a heat gun. Then we're going to do a leaf analysis. We'll probably get that done on just the Medi Kush, not all of them. We're taking a better look at what's going on in these because I got to start like really understanding and learning. Growing with LEDs is a whole new game, guys. And it's a better game, but learning how to grow with this game is going to be a little different. So you can see I've raised these lights, and you can see the same deficiencies here that we're having in the other room. See what's going on here? This is too much light. And I had no idea because I have never done this to my plants before because I've never had too much light. Too much light, guys. So we're seeing this. We're seeing some changes. We're seeing some education. We're learning every day about how to grow and what to grow with LEDs.
All right, welcome to the THC show with Neil, where we talk about the unpleasant truths of our system and our democracy here.
I help patients. I
know what you're saying.
I got rated for growing, and I'm staring at the cracks in the wall doing time, and I'm trying to figure out who I hurt. No victim, no crime.
And we look for avenues of hope and ways that we can change some things. As you can see, there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of care packs that we're handing out there. I am not a criminal.
Wow, look at this.
Right,
hey,
yeah.
it's 420 for sure now. Got you.
And I'll be back next Tuesday for another episode of THC, Truth, Hope, and Change. Go about changing the world as best you can, and while you're doing it, just have as much fun as you can. Thank you.
Hi there, welcome to the 420 Lifestyle Show. I'm Carly Marley. She's taking a dab. Thanks.
We can play the Sick Moose video.
Oh yes, Sick and Moose video. Let's play the Sick and Moose video.
Yeah, so that's my home. That's like all over the place, I guess.
It helps the speaker lead his audience into the scene he describes.
Oh, I'm rolling out the fattest joint I could possibly fit in this paper. If it was any bigger, it would explode.
Hello there, first-time viewers. Welcome to Pot TV. Welcome to Pot TV.
Everybody go! Let them 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 go!
It is only now, once we've reached this point of critical mass, that I could really tell you the story, because that's the interactive nature of the internet.
Pot TV is an internet video-based site. We've had over 6 million shows watched. We get about 10,000 shows watched a day. Shows on growing marijuana, medical marijuana, politics of marijuana.
And at that time, most magazines or books revolving around marijuana were prohibited literature.
From cookbooks to grow books, books about the cannabis culture, mushroom books, even psychedelic books.
The mass injustice being done where millions of people in this country are being scapegoated, having their rights and their property and their leisure time and their privacy and their freedom of movement all stripped away from them.
And they pulled me off the line, they pushed me down and put me in handcuffs, and they locked me in the patio.
This is what it's all about. A little green plant. You, the taxpayers, are being asked to subsidize a war on a little green plant.
I know it's scary and difficult and frustrating, and politicians are a fraud. Try and change that and be a voice of truth.
For many, many years, decades.
In 2001, Canada legalized marijuana for medical purposes.
Pot TV news flash breaking story, July 9th, 2003.
I became leader about 9 months ago.
You have how many locations and how long have you been serving the people of the community for?
Well, I started in 2004.
Because as long as you're not hurting anyone else, as long as you're not causing any harm, then why should you be dealing with police or prisons or agents of the government?
A former DEA agent and author of Powder Burns, Cocaine Contras and the Drug War.
In the media often, and the media reports uncritically all too often.
I saw this video and I was like, whoa, man. Seems like there's something to this.
Join me weekdays on Pot TV.
We're going to be doing a new show here on Pot TV.
On Pot TV, Singer Bauer combines poetry, music, art, video clips, and photographs with a variety of interesting guests who are involved in the medical cannabis movement.
It comes on air at 4:20.
Cannabis indica, or Indian hemp. It was tasted by the priests on sacrificial occasions.
So I'm gonna stop and smoke a joint. Just figured I'd show you my surroundings here. Beautiful, beautiful little flowers everywhere.
Hemp and its many applications, how hemp can be made into paper and fuel and clothing and that.
2 different samples.
Now these are the same cut, grown in the same room with 2 different soil mixes.
As a line diagram, okay, and this is a cross-section of a bract.
Now on some of these plants too, there's something called pre-flowers that form. Sometimes 8 to 12 weeks into the veg cycle, you can look 3 or 4 sets of branches down from the top. Hey, wait a second, I'm not even smoking joints. I'm talking.
We need real cannabis dispensaries. Many patients who use cannabis as a medicine need access. You're taking the medicine away from sick and dying people.
Let's overgrow the government. Let's have more marijuana than they can ever stop.
But while you sit here enjoying this, remember those who are in prison this moment, locked away from their loved ones, locked away from their friends, and that could be you.
Just want to say thanks for watching Pot TV. You can't get higher on the net.